The Superwoman cape is suffocating you. Here's why you need to drop it. I recently sat down with Shamekia White, a mother of five who has walked through fire that most of us cannot even fathom. And she is still standing on all 10 toes, not because she possesses some superhuman ability, but because she made a choice over and over again to keep breathing, to keep healing, to keep showing up, even when the world told her she was finished. Shamakia is living proof that your story does not end where the system, the streets, or even grief says it does. She is rewriting the narrative for Black mothers everywhere, and her testimony is changing lives, one truth at a time. She is a force, a beacon of hope, and a testament to the fact that survival can become sacred when you refuse to let your pain have the final word. Now, before we go any further, let me be crystal clear about something. This is not a conversation about being strong for the sake of being strong. This is not about the superwoman cape we have been handed since birth, the one that is so heavy it is crushing our spines, breaking our backs, and stealing our joy. This is about what happens when you finally take that cape off, when you stop performing survival and start practicing healing. This is about learning to be soft in a world that taught you nothing but how to endure, how to push through, how to smile while you are bleeding. Shemekia said something to me that I have not been able to shake. She said, "It's so much, I feel better saying it out loud. I know my story is a testimony to help others." And that right there, that is the heart of what we are talking about today. Because so many of us are walking around with stories locked in our chest, stories we think are too heavy, too messy, too much. We think if we say it out loud, we will fall apart. But what if saying it out loud is actually what holds us together? What if your testimony, the one you have been hiding because you think it is too broken or too raw, is the exact thing someone else needs to hear to keep going? What if your voice, shaking and uncertain, is the permission someone else has been waiting for? Let me tell you what Shamakia has survived. She faced a 60-year federal sentence. 60 years. That is not a typo. That is the kind of time that is supposed to bury you, that is supposed to make you disappear into the system and never come back. And yet she beat it. She came home. She rebuilt her life from the ground up. She became a mother to five children, pouring everything she had into making sure they had a life she once thought was impossible for herself. And then, in a moment that no parent should ever have to endure, she lost her 15-year-old son to gun violence. And school, a place that was supposed to be safe, a place where she sent him that morning, believing he would come home that afternoon. Her life, as she put it, is like a real movie. But here's the thing. She is not glamorizing the pain. She is not saying trauma is beautiful or that suffering is some kind of badge of honor. She is saying that even in the middle of unthinkable loss, even when it feels like the credits are rolling and the story is over, God is still writing. Your story is not over, no matter how impossible it looks, no matter how many times you have been knocked down, no matter how many people have counted you out. And I need you to hear that today. I need you to hear it if you are sitting in a season that feels like it is breaking you, if you are carrying grief that has no name, if you are trying to hold it together for everyone else while you are falling apart on the inside, if you have been told by the world or by yourself that you are too damaged, too tired, too far gone to come back. Shamekia White is proof that you can come back from what was meant to bury you. But let's talk about what that actually looks like, because coming back does not mean you are suddenly healed. It does not mean the pain goes away or that everything is magically better. It means you learn how to carry it differently. It means you stop trying to be strong all the time and you start being honest. It means you find people who can hold space for your tears, your rage, your exhaustion, and your hope, all at the same time. It means you stop apologizing for needing help and you start asking for it without shame. When I think about Shamekia's story, I think about all the Black mothers who have had to do this. I think about the women who have been incarcerated for decades under harsh federal sentencing guidelines, many of them swept up during the war on drugs in the 1980s and 90s. These were women who made one desperate decision, often in the context of an abusive relationship or financial crisis, and ended up with sentences that were designed to erase them. Black women, in particular, were disproportionately impacted by conspiracy laws that held them accountable for the actions of partners or associates, even when their involvement was minimal or coerced. But here is what the system did not count on. These women inside those prison walls created informal support networks. They mentored younger women. They shared legal knowledge. They built emotional resilience in a place designed to break them. And when they came home, many of them did not just disappear into the background. They began speaking publicly. They testified before Congress. They partnered with organizations like the ACLU and the Sentencing Project to push for sentencing reform and more humane prison conditions. They went from being inmate numbers to advocates, writers, leaders, and policy influencers. They proved that the story does not end at the sentencing table. And then I think about Cleopatra Cowley Pendleton, who lost her 15-year-old daughter, Hadia, just days after she performed at President Obama's second inauguration. Hadia was an honor student full of light and promise, described by everyone who knew her as bright, joyful, and destined for greatness. And she was gunned down in a park after school, a place that was supposed to be safe, a place where kids go to play and laugh and just be kids. Cleopatra could have let that grief consume her, and honestly, no one would have blamed her. But instead, she turned her pain into a platform. She started speaking out, showing up at rallies, working with policymakers, refusing to let her daughter's name become just another statistic in the endless cycle of gun violence. She made Hadia's life mean something beyond the violence that took it. She kept her daughter's face, her dreams, her humanity front and center. And in doing so, she gave other grieving mothers permission to do the same. That is what Shamakia is doing too. She is taking the worst thing that ever happened to her and she is using it to help other mothers, other families, other Black children who are navigating a world that does not protect them the way it should. She is standing on all 10, not because she has got it all figured out, but because she knows her story is bigger than her pain. She knows that her voice, even when it shakes, even when it breaks, matters. Now, I want to be really clear about something. Standing on all 10 does not mean you are not allowed to cry. It does not mean you are not allowed to break down. It does not mean you have to have your life together before you can help someone else. Standing on all 10 means you are still here. It means you are still breathing. It means you are choosing every single day to not let what happened to you have the final word. It means you are soft and strong, broken and still standing, grieving and still growing. And here's the part that I think we miss when we talk about resilience. We act like resilience is about being tough, about gritting your teeth and pushing through. But real resilience, the kind that actually sustains you, is about building community. It is about asking for help. It is about letting people see you when you are not okay. It is about finding or creating systems that protect you and your children because the ones that exist were not built with us in mind. Think about the mothers of the movement. Women like Sabrina Fulton, who lost her son Trayvon Martin, and Gwen Carr, who lost her son Eric Garner. These women, along with so many others, lost their children to police violence and systemic racism. And they did not just grieve alone, they found each other. They stood together at the Democratic National Convention, voices shaking, tears falling, and they said, our children's lives mattered. They did not wait until they were healed to speak. They spoke while they were still bleeding. And in doing so, they gave other mothers permission to do the same. These were ordinary mothers, professionals, workers, caregivers, before tragedy pushed them into activism. Their lives went from regular to unimaginable overnight as they were thrust into cameras, courtrooms, and protests while still trying to bury and mourn their children. They kept their children's names and stories alive in the national consciousness, refusing to let them fade into headlines of the past. They influenced local and national conversations on policing, race, and the value of Black life. They inspired more Black mothers to speak out, organize, and even run for office. They model what it looks like to stand on all 10 while devastated, crying on stage, voice shaking, but still declaring our children's lives mattered. They offer a living blueprint for turning a deeply personal tragedy into collective healing and systemic challenge. And that is what Shamekia is offering us too: a blueprint, a testimony, a mirror. And let's talk about that word soft. Because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, I cannot afford to be soft. The world will eat me alive. And I get it, I really do. We have been taught that softness is weakness, that if we let our guard down for even a second, everything will fall apart. But what if softness is actually the bravest thing you can do? What if choosing rest, choosing boundaries, choosing to say no without guilt, choosing to prioritize your peace, what if that is the revolution? What if softness is not about being weak, but about being wise enough to know that you cannot pour from an empty cup? What if softness is about honoring yourself enough to stop performing and start living? Shamakia's story is a testimony, but it is also a mirror. It is asking you, what are you carrying that you were never meant to carry? What role are you playing that is slowly killing you? What would it look like to put that down? Not because you are giving up, but because you are finally choosing yourself. Not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Here is what I need you to do: I need you to tell the truth about your story to yourself first, then to someone safe. Stop hiding the hardest parts because of shame. Whether it is time you served, a child you lost, a marriage that ended, a dream that died, whatever it is, write it down. Journal it out in raw form, then share one layer of it with a therapist, a trusted friend, support group, someone who can hold it with you. And if you are ready, start shaping it into a testimony that can help someone else. Because your story, the one you think is too messy, too heavy, too much, that is the one someone else is waiting to hear. Second, get intentional about healing, not just surviving. If you have been through major trauma, commit to one healing action this month: therapy, a grief group, a support circle, church counseling, trauma informed coaching, something. And replace isolation with at least one consistent community touch point each week. You were not meant to do this alone. You were never meant to carry this by yourself. Third, protect and advocate for Black children like your life depends on it, because it does. Show up at school board meetings, PTA, city council sessions where safety and funding are decided. Learn your local policies on school safety, policing, youth services, and ask hard questions. Mentor or support at least one Black child who is not your own. We have to build the systems that protect our babies because the ones that exist are failing them. We cannot wait for someone else to do it. We have to be the ones. And here's the thing I need you to understand: Shamekia did not survive a 60-year federal sentence and the murder of her 15-year-old son because she is special. She survived because she refused to let the story end there. She survived because she found people who could hold her when she could not hold herself. She survived because she believed, even on the days when it felt impossible, that God was still writing. She survived because she chose every single day to keep going. Your story is not over. I do not care how dark it looks right now. I do not care how many times you have been knocked down. I do not care how many people have counted you out. You are still here. You are still breathing. And that means there is still more for you. That means your story is still being written. That means your testimony is still forming. That means your purpose is still unfolding. So take off the cape. Stop trying to be strong for everyone else. Start being honest with yourself. Find your people. Protect your peace. Advocate for your children and tell your story out loud, even if your voice shakes. Because someone somewhere is waiting to hear that if you made it through, maybe they can too. Shamekia White is standing on all 10, and so can you.